Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain.
I'm Lynn.
And today we're going to be reviewing and talking about and also telling you a bit how to play the game Hero Realms from, used to be called White Wizard Games, though it still says it here on the box. They've now changed their name to Wise Wizard Games. So I want to give, to start with, a big thank you to Wise Wizard Games for this review copy of Hero Realms. Also, they sent us a few of their little mini pack of cards expansions to Hero Realms. We're going to do a video on these once we've had a chance to check them out, so look forward to that at some point in the future. Big thank you to Wise Wizard Games. And also, I want to say before we get too into this, I've got a ton of links in the description down below that you can check out at your leisure. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com, which is a great hub for all things Board Game Captain. There's also a link to my Teespring store where I have shirts and mugs like this. This one says, "I drink and I game, it's what I do." Check that out if you want to get some cool Board Game Captain merch. And if you're in a position to and would like to support the channel, there's a link to my Teespring store. All right, so let's start with the stats, shall we?
It's very tiny.
Well, it's a small box.
20 minutes?
Okay. Sometimes. This is a perfect example of why there needs to be ranges on game boxes. Wouldn't you agree?
What does it?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't say like 20 plus. It says 20 minutes.
it just says 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So the thing is, this game, I mean, it could go quick if let's say you're playing two players and one player is like going 100% towards damage and the other person is not going towards healing abilities, the game could go even faster than 20 minutes. But also, if you have people playing rather defensively, this game could go a lot longer than 20 minutes. Like, it could go an hour. So, like, this needs to be a range. There needs to be a range for this game. Would you agree to that statement?
Yes.
Okay. So, now what's the next one?
2 to 4 players.
Okay, so this is true. The game mainly plays at 2 players, but there's a ton of actually different ways to play it at more than 2 players. I was a little worried that there'd be player elimination, and some of the ways to play 3 and 4 players do have player elimination, but they also have a ton of methods of play that are inspired by old, like, tournament styles of play that they had for Magic the Gathering back in the day. Things like two-headed giant tournaments and stuff like that, where people share life totals and you do team games and things like that. And all of those are actually quite awesome and quite playable for 4 players. So I think that is really cool. So yeah, I don't disagree with that at all for 2 to 4 players. And what's the last one?
12 plus.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really easy to play. So
Yeah, I would even go under.
yeah.
What do you think?
They might not, younger might not get all the ways the cards interact with each other, but they could still play it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would go down to like 10. I think it's very easy. All right, so now in the box, what do you get when you buy the game of Hero Realms? You get the rules, which are not a book, but a more kind of pamphlet style rules. It's like one of these fold out pamphlets. They do have lots of color illustrations and diagrams, which are really nice. And as you can tell that it's just, this one pamphlet, 2 sides, it's very easy to learn to play. It only takes about 15 minutes to read these rules and you're ready to teach other people. And then this is one of those games you can teach other people how to play in like 3 minutes, especially if they've played a deck building game before. This is a deck building game. And if you start with, okay, you know how you play deck building games? And then move on, it takes like 3 minutes to teach people how to play. It's very easy to understand. And the rest of the components are really just cards. You've got the basic cards that you use to make your deck. You have the cards that you have for the deck that makes the market out front. You have the fire gem cards, and you have the cards for keeping track of your life, which are actually really cool. That was a really cool addition. But this game has everything you need to play in it. It's none of these like, oh, get counters or pen and paper to do your life. They give you a really cool, pair of cards to help you figure out your life total, which is really good. So that's really it on the components. I'm going to be showing lots of pictures of them up on the screen while we talk about this. So maybe we should start with a basic explanation how you play.
Okay.
So we'll go back and forth on this. If you think of something or I missed something, jump on in, and vice versa. So this plays as a deck building game. Now, if you're not familiar with deck building games, the idea is you start with a very basic deck and you slowly buy cards to improve on it and maybe cull some of the weaker cards to get rid of them, right? Does that basically sum up the genre?
Yes.
So in this, the starting deck is, help me out, it's 7 gold.
7 gold, 1 ruby, 1 dagger.
And 1 short sword.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So and it's 10 cards total. So you get your deck, you get your color of the life counter cards, which are double sided, can go really really high down to 0. You start at 50 life. You set your life counter to 50. You get your 10 cards. You shuffle them up. You get the stack of fire gem cards, which go next to the market. You get the deck. You shuffle that up, and that you deal 5 cards up to make the market. And then you decide who's going first. And now the basic version of this game is a 2-player game, and playing at 2 players. Whoever goes first will draw 3 cards for their first turn. The other player will draw 5 cards for their first turn, and then from then on, at the end of each turn, you're going to be drawing 5 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything, or is that basically the whole set?
That's it.
Yeah, and as you can see, that's pretty easy, right? I mean, it's not a lot there. It's pretty easy to remember. Okay, so once you have the cards out, and once you're playing them, there's a few different kinds of cards. There are item and action cards, which basically act the same. The only difference is because some cards might reference item cards or action cards, but otherwise, item cards and action cards are essentially identical. And when you have them in your hand, you can play them for free. There's no cost to play them. And they will usually give you, as their base effect in the first part of the box, they give you money, damage you can do either to other players or their champions, or life. Is that basically it?
Yeah.
And sometimes extra effects.
Yeah, sometimes they'll say like draw a card, or if like you have a
Or what are some of the other effects? There's draw a card, there's making someone discard a card sometimes. There's some unique effects.
Yeah, well
and culling cards. There's something that you cull, right?
Yeah.
Did I forget any major ones, or is that basically?
I think that's basically it.
Then a lot of them will have secondary effects that are either because of synergies or because of like culling cards sometimes. So like for the culling cards, the fire gem is the one that comes to mind right away. The fire gem lets you get 2 gold, but then if you cull it, if you put it into the out of the game.
It's a discard pile.
Right, you get another 3 damage added to your damage total for the turn. So that's a really cool effect. But then a lot of the there's 4 different factions, and a lot of the cards in the factions will have a second effect with a picture of their own faction symbol, meaning if you have a champion out of that faction, or if you play another card of that faction on the same round, they get the secondary effect as well. Did I miss anything else with secondary effects? Is that basically all?
That's basically it. It's a really easy game.
Yeah. And then champions. Why don't you talk about champions a bit? Because I'm doing all the talking so far.
The champions stay out.
Yes.
They're the only cards that stay in play from round to round unless they're killed. They have a little shield on the bottom, and that's the damage that you need to do to that specific champion to kill it. And the ones that have a black shield, and it says guard on top of it, you have to attack that champion before you can attack the player's health. So they're basically guarding the player's health.
They also guard the other champions too, which is really cool. Yeah. And then all the champions, they can be used immediately once you put them out. They usually have a expend effect, which has a little like left turn arrow.
Yeah.
And it'll be like you turn them left to expend them. They can do their ability. Sometimes they'll also have an ally ability like the action cards do. So that when you expend them, they get an extra ability if there are other champions of the same type, or if you play other cards from the same faction out. And they'll get extra abilities. They can do a lot of the similar things that the action and item cards do, except that they stay out and they can keep doing them. One important thing to note is when you add up your damage total, you can split it up how you like. Do some to certain of your opponent's champions, some to them. The only time you can't choose to split it up is if your opponent has guard champions. Then you have to kill them first. And the goal of the game, of course, is to knock your opponent down to 0 life. Does that basically cover the whole game? I mean, we just like explained the whole game in like 6-7 minutes. Like it was really quick, and that's a pretty full explanation. Oh, we forgot about the gold for buying things though.
Oh.
Yeah. So why don't you go start us off with that?
Well, you can use the gold either in your hand or from, champions that you have out to buy anything from the market, including fire gems, which are worth 2 gold.
Yeah, then the nice cheap default thing you can always get.
Yeah.
Because you have those 5 varied cards out there. Some of them, they could wind up being all very expensive, and maybe you can't afford them. But generally speaking, most turns you can afford to buy at least a fire gem. It's very rare that you can't. And they all have a gold cost in their top, and when you buy them, you put them in your discard pile. And then later, when you run out of cards, you reshuffle your discard pile and turn it into your deck again. So you're going to run out of cards fairly quickly because you start with a deck of only 10 cards. But the further in you go into the game, the longer it takes to run out of cards. But then there are effects which allow you to take some cards out of your discard pile and put them on top of the deck, which is pretty awesome. Which was, you discovered that effect in the first game. Okay. So this plays like a cross between a deck building game and a card battle game because you're kind of fighting it out, right? Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
But there's a ton of combos and cool synergies in here. You were the first one to find an awesome combo because do you remember what the names of those cards were?
One was Varric the Necromancer. He let me put a champion from my discard on top of my deck.
Right, and what was the other one?
And then it was some kind of orc,
like
I think,
orc?
or a troll. And he would let me draw a card. So I would use Varric to put a discarded champion that was killed.
No, you were mainly doing it for the guys you were buying.
Oh yeah, and for buying. Like if you buy a champion, they go in your discard.
Yeah.
Then I would use Varric to put him on top of my deck, and then the orc/troll, I don't remember, to draw him and just put him out in play right away.
Yeah, so that was like the first game we played. I was still figuring out like how the game worked, and Lynn was like, "Oh, look at this! If I buy this guy here, then Varric lets me put him on the deck, and then my orc lets me draw him. Oh, and then I just put him out, and then I do his ability." And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to lose this game." I was immediately like, "Oh, you got me." And I did lose that game because once you had that combo going, like I was desperately trying to kill those guys, but I would kill them. And, the only one, I always had to kill Varric first because otherwise you just pull him back.
No, you had to kill the orc because he had guard. And then I would use Varric to put him on top of my
Oh, that's what it
deck.
was. Yeah.
So he would just come right back out. He wouldn't have to cycle through.
And the point I'm getting, though, is it's so rewarding when you find these combos in here, which is a really cool part of this game. All right, so before we get too into all the positives, because we're just discussing some positives here, do you have any negatives, though, you want to say about Hero Realms?
Just that certain abilities can make the game go longer than it really should be.
So it was specifically I think it's the Imperial faction has a lot of heal abilities. Like and when you synergize them, because they'll get the extra abilities, there's a lot of cards where it's like the first part lets you heal 2 life, but then if it's synergized, you get to heal life 2 for every champion you have, and you have 3 champions, so that's another 6 life. So now you just healed 8 life with one card, one champion being expended. And there was one game where we were both playing kind of defensively, but I was focusing in on those life-giving effects, and you just did not have enough damage to counteract it. And eventually we just called it. We didn't actually, that was the one game we didn't actually finish, just because you were like, yeah, I can't kill you. Yeah. Because I was over 80 life, even though I started at 50, and you're like, I'm never going to be able to kill you. I agree. The as much as I like that there are life-giving effects in there, because you do want to have that ability, if you see someone going for all of the Imperial cards, you should go for all of like the Necros or the wild cards, because they have all the attack damage and can stack up crazy amounts of damage, so you'll be able to chew away at all their life-giving and maybe steal some of the life-giving cards yourself, right? Because otherwise, it can make the game go a bit long if you let them run away with taking all the Imperial cards, basically. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
I don't actually have any real negatives. I kind of agree with your negative, though I think it's mitigatable. Again, if you notice they're doing it and you make sure to steal some of the life-giving cards yourself and then go for a lot of heavy damage dealing cards. Because there are cards out there that can do like 10 plus damage when they get the synergy effects off. There are a lot of cards that do like a lot of damage. Any other negatives you had?
No, not really.
All right, so we were talking about the coolness factor of finding the combos. We also talked a little bit about the coolness factor of the 2 cards for the life tracking, which is very, very useful, very easy to use. The cards are linen finish. Let's talk about that, the quality of production. The cards are linen finish. They feel pretty substantial. If I was to play this a lot, I might sleeve them just because they'd be getting a lot of shuffling. This is a game where you're going to be shuffling constantly, so there could get a lot of wear and tear on these. But they feel pretty nice to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, they feel fine.
And the art on these is just gorgeous. It's definitely on par with some of the nice art in like collectible card games and whatnot, like that you would see in Magic the Gathering and whatever. Really cool art. The symbols are very easy to understand and nice. What do you think? Some positives?
I like that it's easy to play. And also I like the thing of just you play your entire hand at once, because I always get, whenever there's cards that affect each other, I always kind of overthink it, and I try to be like, oh well, if I play this one first, and then I play that one, this will happen. But if I play this one first, and it's like, you just play everything at once,
and then you can decide the order the effects happen, which is really cool because you can throw it all out and be like, okay, so now I'm going to do the synergy effect because now I have another champion out, and that's going to get me some extra life or damage or whatever. Yeah, it is really cool like that. This is a really good, pretty introductory level deck building game. Like if you're looking to teach someone to play deck building games and you want to play them one-on-one, it has a great basic fantasy theme to it. Everybody understands the standard fantasy theme, and the game is very easy to teach, very easy to learn, very easy to play. Yeah, so I'm going to thoroughly agree with all of that. Any other thoughts?
No.
There's not a huge amount, unfortunately, to really talk about with this because it is so simple. It is so easy to understand. Did we miss anything that we should address, though, with Hero Realms? What do you think? Or does that basically cover it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with you, Lynn. How many stars out of 10 are you going to give to Hero Realms?
I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay, so 7 out of 10 stars. That's a very positive rating. So you quite like it, and often will be in the mood to play.
Yeah, I like that it's easy and relatively quick.
Usually,
yeah.
Because it can go long, but I would say more often than not, it's quick, right?
Yeah.
I also really like it. I'm 100% right there with you. I'm going to go 7 out of 10 stars as well. This is a very good game, and something before we leave, something we forgot to mention. We looked this up because we were curious, like how much did this sell for, and it goes for like $20, sometimes even less. Like you can find it on sale places for even less than $20, but $20 is the normal like MSRP around there, and that's amazingly affordable for how much gameplay is in here. There's a lot of cards and there's a lot of a lot of hours of fun you can have in here with two people just playing a deck building game. It's a really cool game. $20 is very affordable. I would definitely recommend this if you have like you and a significant other want to just occasionally play a game at like the pub or coffee house, because you can just bring this with you. It's it's very small footprint. Because it's not one of those games where you wind up with like a million cards out in front of you. At the most, you have a handful of
I think
champions.
the most champions anyone had was like maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah,
because then they start, the ones that have guard tend to
get killed.
Yeah.
So it's a small footprint game. It's a small box game. You can bring it with you. But yeah, very fun game. So yeah, this is a 2 thumbs up review, 7 stars from each of us. We both quite liked Hero Realms, and like I said, we're gonna have some reviews of the couple expansions they gave us too. We got to check these out, but we'll be back at some point to review the expansions to Hero Realms. At least we have specifically the boss deck expansion, and we have 2 of the character decks. We have the Wizard and the Cleric. Lynn was complaining that we didn't get the Rogue, so I might have to look and get her the Rogue to try out. Maybe I'll buy that myself so we can try it out when we're trying out the hero decks. I might go with the Wizard, though. I like the Wizard. But yeah, there you go. That is our review for Hero Realms. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, either on this video or on the game of Hero Realms, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review and tutorial of a card game and you'd like to see us do more like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.